I went through a very serious transformation in the 90s in terms of the Black human experience. In the early part of the 90s, I went into a phase of appreciating being in this skin and loving it so much. Okay. And I talk about this at length in other episodes of T.O.T. And then in 1997, I went through another transformation that was spiritual, where I did not hold on to the existence of being in melanated flesh. I'd love it, but not hold on to it so much that it becomes the end all be all. So that was a transformation in 1997. But then even after that, there was still some emotional residue, if you will, because within the Black human experience, emotions tend to be very high, and in a lot of cases, rightfully so, and in a lot of cases, not so much. Okay, because you can see that emotion at a high level has been no benefit within the Black human experience. So as the 2000s came along, there was this sort of chipping away at those emotions. 2008 was the last straw. The election of 2008, I was one who said, ooh, Black president. Oh, we used to joke about this in the 90s. It's about to happen. Wow. Yeah. And I, shed the tears. I went through all of that, so much to the point to where I put on a stand-up routine at the Comedy Store in 2008, talking about what this would do to the Black human experience. Good orators, the English language being spoken very well, right? This idea of intelligence, the pursuit of en masse. All the inner cities would be corrected and fixed. The man would be of a better presentation. Relationships would improve, blah, 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 blah. This is what I thought in 2008. And then after 2008, when those things weren't happening in mass, keep in mind, in mass, I'm not talking about sprinkles. I'm talking about in mass, because I was thinking it would happen in mass. The entire collective would have impact from this. By 2013, I checked out. Long story short, with that, I checked out. That was the official checkout, more so from the political spectrum. I realized how much of a game it was. So I said, no, I'm going to pull my emotions out of all things political, all legislation, because it doesn't solve the root of the problem. It never does. And essentially, it's not necessarily meant to do that. The people are meant to do this, but they're not aware of it, not fully. And even if they are aware of it, they don't put it in practice. So this was the evolution. Follow me now. So here we go again. Reparations hits full swing. It's always been the talk, but now it's full swing, especially in the age of social media. Everything's going to be full swing now. A lot of things go viral. A lot of things are discussed. And now we have this legislation here on the West Coast. And I say to myself, it's not the reparations that's going to solve anything, is it? These are the questions in my mind. My grandmother, she used to say, it's too much rhetoric. It's too much rhetoric, all that rhetoric. And this is a woman who didn't get past high school in education, but that word, probably one of the best words that ever came out of her in terms of intellect, Love my grandma now, but rhetoric, too much rhetoric. And I never understood why she said that. It finally started to sink in after 2013. Rhetoric, okay? The idea of all of these things that are pushed, but there's always a plot twist behind it. There's always something lurking, right? You give money for something that was done, an atrocity that was done on a human level in the past. Because I'm looking at this on both sides now. Okay. My ancestors were treated poorly. They died, blood, sweat, tears, treated poorly within the human experience, suffered here in the nation that we call United States of America. Okay. And the lineage, my last name, connected to that. Fair enough. Here you go. Now, on a human level, you look at it as, okay, these other groups have received this. These other groups have been given, here it is. Your people were treated poorly. This was a terrible time in history in the nation. Here you go. Okay? You're going to get this. You're going to have land, access, finance. Now, on a human level, you think, okay, cool. All right. On a spiritual level, probably doesn't necessarily matter, but that's an entirely different discussion. Let's stay human now. What did the groups do? Well, they built communities. You see it. All these other communities that you can see, these neighborhoods, built that up. Okay. Resources within these communities, built that up. Okay. Cool. Put some good things to use because they had the unity in place even before they got it. Okay. Cool. So they already had the mindset before they got it. That's why it worked after they received it. Okay. Check. Is that the case here? I wonder. The Black human experience has shown that there's a huge divide, especially between the men and the women. So would this create an instant union? Would it do that? Would the problems automatically go away if the government said, here you go? Would it? Because I look at what happens after the reparations, not the reparation itself, the aftermath, because it's never about the protest. It's about what you do after. It's never about the gift. It's what you do with the gift. So that's where my curiosity lies. Because I think of a person, and here's another thing too. It depends on where you're at, because me being in my 40s, mid 40s, receiving that has a different impact than if I was 18 years old getting it. Right. Because wouldn't it be the same as if I worked my ass off? I worked really hard, blood, sweat, and tears. And then my son, he just gets it. He inherits it. It's a gift to him. So then does he appreciate it? You know, there's that saying, when you just are given it, you don't really appreciate it. Now, some would argue, well, the blood, sweat, and the tears was already shed technically because of our ancestors. A lot of blood, a lot of sweat, a lot of tears. But again, we're talking right now and where our mindsets are today versus 50 years ago or 60 years ago or 75 years ago. Right. Different mindset. And then I think, had this happened in the 1940s, I wonder how it would have been applied. If members of the Black human experience received this in the 1940s, or let's say even 1860s. Let's look at that. If after 1865 this was done, we don't have civil rights. Maybe we don't have jazz. Maybe we don't have hip hop. And I know there's a conflict going on in terms of who started that. Maybe we don't have a lot of the things that we have today. If everything that took place after the 1860s does not exist because there was an act, let's call it the Black Human Experience Act of 1865, if that's given and applied, right? Land, access, finance, boom, here it is. And you're not going to be messed with. Here you go. The system supports you. Good luck. Everything that we know of the Black human experience as we understand it, and some of that being actually good things, doesn't happen. All of that's gone. What would the Black human experience turned out to be had things gone, I guess you would say, correctly on a human level? At the end of the day, it's a human level. I look at all these things because, again, it's the aftermath. Where we are now, ask yourself the question, if you are a member of the Black human experience, would you say that we are more unified now, or would you say that we were more unified in 1948? Would we be better with it today than we were then? What will you do with it? They're talking about finance. See, finance is finance. I give you X amount of dollars because of something that happened. Okay, now you're on your own. What do you do with it? What happens? What do you do? Do you build new societies? Do you decide to leave the entertainment business and sports? Because those have been the two majors. Entertainment, sports, entertainment, sports, entertainment, sports. That literally almost becomes the defining thing for the Black human experience in the United States. Because the first thing you think about is not engineering. You don't think that, do you? Including those who are not within the Black human experience. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? You see? So then does that automatically change when the reparations are received? Does the mindset flip? Because that's where the weakness is. It's not the lack of resources, it's the mindset, isn't it? Because if I give someone with a mindset that's not firm, if I give that person $2.5 million, do they then create a better way for everyone else? Do they? It would be like, okay, you're 21 years old, you've been in impoverished conditions, you've made it to the MBA, but you still don't understand how to apply and utilize and manage. So then it's pointless anyway, because you've made it to the MBA, you've got a $20 million signing bonus, but you don't use it in the right fashion. You blow it all and you're broke. Right here. So then I start thinking about the root of the problem or issues, the root of it all. It's not that finance and a gift for a previous atrocity is a terrible idea based on the human level as we know it, because other groups have received it. So it's not a terrible idea just based on that alone. Okay. But then comes, will that create anew? What will happen after? How will it be applied? What will it do for you in here? Will it change you into a very affluent human being when you haven't been working on it? These are the questions that I ask myself. Is it just a Band-Aid? Because it could be, here, we're going to shut you up and just give it to you. Here you go. We're tired of hearing you. Here you go. Just take it. Just take it. These are the questions that I ask myself. I ask myself, what will I do? When something is just given to me, regardless of why, I always think, am I going to appreciate this? Regardless of why. These are the questions that I ask. I want to work for it. But again, it goes back to the discussion of, well, our ancestors, they did the work and other groups have received. You're always going to run into that. That's the discussion. Fair enough. I'll just say this. Think more about the aftermath, the real work, the mindset, the understanding of what your real power is. It's not about the reparations. It really isn't. Because even with the things that have happened, let's say that some would argue that there has been no progress at all. Some would argue that. But technically, if I walk out my door and decide to take a walk down to the grocery store, I'm not worried about a mob who's going to hang me from a tree. It's after 6 o'clock. Okay, facts. So miss me with the lack of progress stuff. Okay, there's been some, maybe not to the degree of expectation, but so it's going to be interesting to see how things unfold. Because again, I usually take my emotions out of the equation and try to look at things objectively. I'm one who just so happens to be sharing in the Black human experience just via the flesh. Okay. Once this flesh goes away, it's over. The Black human experience ends as we understand it. We're very primitive in the way we think. Very primitive. Absolutely. The only difference is we have these damn devices. That's really the only difference, but we're very primitive. There's very little evolution that has happened here on this damn planet. Really. It's gotten to the point to where we're kind of dead in our thoughts. Especially with the devices. Overuse of them, not the existence of them, the overuse. But reparations. What are you going to do with it?